Before I call David up, I just wanted to say one more thing. One of the main reasons I decided to start with real estate is because there's no question that right now we're experiencing a tremendous boom that's taking place here in Brooklyn. There's a tremendous amount of opportunity that's opening up that like it has never been in many, many years. And personally, in my dealings with many young people in this community, I found that many of them are gravitating towards a job in real estate, and I felt like if there's something that we should tackle first, it should be real estate. Our speaker tonight is somebody who his talk should resonate very deeply with many of you here in this room because he's somebody who went through the system, just like many of us here went through the regular yeshiva system, studied right here, a few blocks away in Oli Torah Yeshiva, and he started off just like everyone else, just went out and got himself a job, and step by step with hard work, he built up his name, and he was able to build a beautiful realty, the Shem Tiferes, that's well renowned here in the neighborhood, and I'm very excited and I'm honored that Rav David Yuna could be here tonight to share with us his story and words of inspiration. Without further ado, Rav David.
First of all, I want to thank Rabbi Wordy for his beautiful words and inspiring words. And I'd like to welcome everybody that's here today and everyone that has made the effort and time for this very important event. I have over here, I want to acknowledge, is my mother's here, and I have some good friends who are showing me support, and all the important participants who are here tonight. I think tonight's event is extremely important for many reasons. I think one of the important reasons why this event is important is this event has the ability to change people's lives. It can put you on the right path of success. You have those that are lucky, that are born into families, that have businesses, that have contacts, and have relationships. And you have those that can kind of steer you in the right direction. But you have those, and many of us in our community, that don't have that connection and don't have anybody to turn to. And you feel like you're all alone, and who can actually help you to find success and find the right business opportunity to go into. And that's why I think that this event is extremely important tonight, because I think that this event will show my story, how I have gone through all the difficult parts of creating a business, starting from scratch, and showing my flexibility in the marketplace itself within the real estate aspect of different parts of the industries, and the way I have managed to maneuver from one part of the sector to another part of the sector, and thank God I managed to do it well. So I remember I was in Cairo, and I was making $275 a month. I hardly survived. But after Cairo, the first job that I had was a temporary job. It was a foreman for somebody in the industry. It was an 8-month job, and it was $400 a week. So I felt like I was the richest guy making $400 a week, starting from $275 a month. So you talk about starting at the bottom of the barrel. You can't get any lower than that. And after that job was completed, at that point, I was trying to figure out what is the next move in my career. And I know that almost all of us, we came through a system that the focus is not about wealth, it's not about money. The focus in success by us is shlichus, chassidishkeit, and ruchnius. And on top of that, there's no one in our system who gives us the tools to go out to the world and be successful. And this is something that a lot of you guys struggle. But on the other hand is, saying all of that, I think that there is plenty of positive that comes up from our upbringing, which I think could make us extremely successful. And I'm referring to Mivtzayim. If you think about the idea and the concept of Mivtzayim, you're basically approaching people on the street that you don't know, that you have never met. You're going to offices, knocking on people's doors, and asking them if they're Jewish. You have people that think that you're crazy, that throw you out, and you get plenty of rejection. On top of that, you also get the opportunity to speak to amazing people, and you also learn how to communicate and talk to people. And it really matures you up rather very, very quickly. And I think personally that this is really a great training ground for success. Besides the attitude of Chabad, that it's a chatchila riba, that there's nothing that can get into our way, there's a certain chutzpah that we have. So I think if you can take the positive and focus on what you could do, and not on the negative of the things that you don't have, I think that anybody over here has the ability is to be successful. And I think that my story now will end up illustrating that. So I remember when I started looking for a job, I looked in the Jewish press. I saw a advertisement for a Deret record. I went for the job interview. A Deret record is the main distributor of Jewish music. And the interviewer was Mordechai David's brother. So he asked me, what is your resume? I said, my resume was I was a head counselor in this camp, in that camp, I was a youth director. And the point that I was trying to make to him was that it's about my ability, that I'm capable. It's not a question whether I had a job or I didn't have a job before, but it was really about my ability. But he didn't get it. After that, I was searching for other jobs, and still at this point, because of our system, we don't know of the ability or your talent or your capability, and I really have no clue what I want to do for a living, but I knew one thing, I want to be successful, but I had no idea what direction to go into. And as I'm looking for a job, as many of you probably had this thought, if you should consider B&H Photo as an option. And I remember I went to my older brother, whose son is here tonight, Joseph Jinnick, and I asked him, what do you think maybe about getting a job at B&H Photo? And he is the one that I consider myself to be lucky, is why I'm in the business today. When I refer to, in the introduction to my speech, that when you have a mentor or someone that can set you onto the right path. So he tells me, listen, David, you just got married, you're young, you don't really have a lot of expenses, and now is, at this point is the time to take risk. Once you start in a 9-to-5 job, it's very hard to get out of it. As you know, you start having children, a family, expenses pile up, and at that point, it's almost like quicksand. It's very hard to get out of it. So he encouraged me to go into real estate. He himself was in that field as well, and he set me up for an interview. And I got the job, and I was hired as a salesman. I remember that after I was hired as a salesman, I thought to myself, how can I make this work? And I had two ideas. First idea was, I said to myself, I need to have a good mentor. I need to have somebody that can help me, that can train me. And I approached one of the senior guys in the office, and I said, I'll give you 50% of my deals, whatever I make, for the first year, but you help me and train me. And he accepted it. The second part was I made myself a plan. I said to myself that in order to be successful, I need to give myself a schedule, and every single day I have to stick to that schedule. For most of you that are in real estate, you know that to get clients or to get business, you have to go out and canvas. You have to go out and find customers, find buyers, and find sellers. So I said to myself that by hook or by crook, that this is what I'll be doing. Every single day, rain or shine, I went out and I canvassed and I found customers and sellers and buyers, but it was a very, very tough market. And it was very, very difficult. And I remember about 6 months or 7 months into it, I maybe made $10,000. And it was extremely frustrating. And I was debating, I had this thought, should I quit, not quit? Is this business for me? And I remember that how my friends from yeshiva, most of them are all on shluchas, would always tell me that if you're not going on shluchas, then you've got to be successful. If not, you have no business being in business. So I was driven. And I approached again as my brother that advised me. And as many of you guys know in real estate, the first year is a tough year. Or in almost any business, the first year is a tough year. But he said that you have to give it between 12 and 18 months to begin to see the potential of the business. And as the year was drawing to a close, at that point, I started seeing potential of new business. And thank God, from year to year, I started improving business, and I started making many deals. And over the next 5 years, I finally got to a level that I was making probably a decent living. One of the things to be successful in real estate and to get ideas is whenever a building comes onto the market, you have to look at the properties. You have to see it. There's certain creative juices you get when you go and you look at a building. So I'm 5 years in the business. I'm doing kind of like mid-sized deals. Majority of my business is all industrial. But whatever I'm saying applies for any of the other types of businesses, whether it's investment, multifamily, retail. And on the market was a 500,000 square foot building, the Kentau building. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it in Park Slope. That building was sitting in the market. The big brokers couldn't sell it. And I called the ownership and I asked them if I can come look at the building. I came to look at the building, and I noticed that the building had a natural division. I asked him if he would consider selling off the building in two parts, and he was open to that idea. It was a 100,000 square foot division and a 400,000 square foot division. I had a customer that was looking to buy 50,000 square feet. The 100,000 square foot building had an income of another 50,000 square feet. I convinced him why financially it makes sense to buy the building, and he bought it. And then I had somebody that needed 250,000 square feet, and I sold the other part. And I think that there's a lot of us sitting here would look at a large building and get intimidated by it, and not knowing if you can pull this off, is this something that's a little bit bigger than me? But one thing I knew, and I think that this has a lot to do with the upbringing, is that I had a lot of confidence in myself. And I knew that if I put my mind to it and the effort, and you're very tedious in how you do things, you could be successful. And I ultimately ended up selling that property. After a couple of years, as I was getting more confidence, I started focusing on the exclusive representation of the market, which is a very, very tough market to represent orders exclusively. It's very competitive. You really have to know your business, and there's a lot of competition. And in my opinion, the following is what I think is needed to be successful in a presentation. You have to decide first if this is something you want to do yourself or you want to put together a team for. And it really depends on the type of property you're going after, the ownership structure, and is this a larger building, a larger corporation, and based on that, you determine the type of team you want to create or not. After you start your presentation, it's important to find a bond, a common bond with the guy. It's, if you know anybody in common, or something of his hobbies, whether it's sports, whether it's golfing, or racing. Usually I have my partners. My partners are the one that kind of pick up the slack on that. And it's also very, very important to know your market extremely well. You need to know the sales market and the leasing market. I felt that I can discuss and engage almost any market in the Brooklyn and Queens area. I've been very familiar with a lot of the deals, and I spoke with a lot of confidence, and that's something that you need to do when you go for a presentation. You need to talk with confidence. You need to look the guy in the eyes. Don't look down. Don't look at your phone. Don't look at your watch. And it's also very important to listen. Many times in a presentation, you're thinking about what you're going to say, but you're not thinking what that guy really wants. Sometimes the customer needs is not what you anticipated. Maybe he doesn't want to sell. Maybe he doesn't want to lease, and he wants to sell, or he wants a joint venture, or some other structure. And I think it's important to always acknowledge what your customer wants. And one of the questions that always gets asked is, why is your firm better than the other firms that are out there? And that's something that you would need to know the answer to that. I remember one of the big presentations we went on was the YMCA, which is the largest Christian non-for-profit organization. It was in their Midtown headquarters. I was pulled in as part of a team of 4. And we put together a large presentation. And the way it works, just to kind of give you a little bit of a sense, is we walked into a large conference room, and there were like 6 board members sitting there, all stone-faced. We all walk in, we all sit down, and then each 4 of us is part of the team. I myself, I get up, I introduce myself, and I talk about my specialty, that what I've done in the market and what I add to what they're looking for. And then each one of us has about 30 seconds to sell yourself on your past history. After that, the presentation starts. Once you finish your presentation, at that point, you get many questions that get thrown at you, and you really need to know your business well in order to make sure that you don't get tripped up. And if they feel that you're being honest and you're answering them the questions that they're asking, and if they connected with you, which is very important, it's a very good chance you'll get the business. We ended up getting the business. We got the assignment. I remember I one time had an opportunity, and I'm saying the story again just to show the flexibility of my thinking in real estate in terms of the type of product I sold. I was mainly selling industrial property. I had an opportunity where somebody knew a very large ownership that owned a property of 1,000,001 square feet of a residential development site. This is before all the rezoning which ended up taking place. This was probably in 2005 or 2006. And the guy asked me, if you want me to introduce you to my partner. I said, please, I'm very interested that you should introduce me to your partner. I knew nothing about residential development. I've never done a deal. I didn't even know the lingo, what to say. But I had a week to prepare. I created a team. I learned the market. I learned what's available, what's sold, and what's out there currently, and how to analyze the numbers from a perspective from a developer in order to appreciate the value from a seller. And we finally had the presentation. I remember in the Marriott in Brooklyn, and we all sat down there, and we started our presentation. That particular ownership had no clue that we never sold a residential development site. But we spoke with such confidence, and we spoke about the deals that were being done, that he never thought about asking us, have you ever done a residential development deal? He just focused on the knowledge that we had in the market. And we got the assignment, and 8 months later, we went to contract on it. But all that was like a one-time shot. And I focused back on my industrial roots. And I would say probably about 2 years later, actually the previous story is probably more in 2004. I would say probably about 2 years later, as the rezoning started taking place in Queens first started in Long Island City, and then eventually it trickled over into other parts in Queens and then to Brooklyn. And I was focused strictly on industrial. And my firm itself, my old company, was basically an industrial firm. It was not focused on residential at all. And the deal that I've done was just a one-time shot. Two guys in the office partnered up, and they started doing residential development. And I'm watching these guys, and I'm doing pretty well in the industrial market, but I'm watching these guys starting to make some nice money. And I said to myself, you know what? If these guys can do it, then I can do it. I learned and caught up with the current market, and I learned the buildings, the buyers, the sellers, and I doubled my income on whatever these guys have earned. These guys eventually approached me to become a team. We ended up becoming a team. Our team became so successful that Cushman & Wakefield approached us about opening up an office in the outer boroughs. I remember we had meetings with them in their Manhattan headquarters, and they offered us signing bonuses in the seven figures, each one of us. And we had the paperwork out, and then the market started crashing, 2007. We get the call from the executive at Cushman telling us that at this point, there's no way we can get this thing approved the way the market is currently. I remember at that time that all the articles in the newspapers was all about how deals are falling apart, banks are closing, and brokers were terrified. How a broker's going to earn a living. And I remember a story of the Rebbe where somebody was not having any success in his business. And he wrote into the Rebbe, and he asked the Rebbe, how come he doesn't have any success in his business? And the Rebbe told him that if you hang around positive people, positive things will happen. To me, the way I looked at all the news, all the negative news in the market, I knew that all of that is not going to make me money. I certainly understand that there's a lot of bad news on the street, but how do I make money out of this? I ended up, and this is again is showing the flexibility, that's why I'm saying all these different stories. I started focusing on the short sale market. And thank God, because of the short sale market, I manage the bad times in order to make money in the good times. Eventually, I've done extremely well in my firm. A frum boy from Olaterra, from Crown Heights. I probably became the face of my firm. It's a 50-year-old company. And they offered me a partnership. First time a non-family member was offered a partnership. My two other partners originally that I spoke about decided to leave, that they were not offered the partnership. But I became a partner of my firm, but 9 months later, I made that big decision to leave my firm and my partnership and join my original team of young guys. I felt that for me to continue and have success for the next 50 years, I wanted a new way of thinking, some young blood, and many of you know in the industry that firms can be around for 50 years, but there's no guarantee you're going to be around for the next 50 years. And thank God, my company in the last couple of years has done over $500 million in sales. So here are the lessons in real estate. I know many of you, I'll say maybe a little small percentage actually, in this crowd, they kind of wear a chip on their shoulders in terms of your frumkeit, yarmulke, and I can tell you that in the New York market, that I would tell you 90% of the people in the New York market have done business with a frum person, whether it's in the real estate in terms of a broker, mortgage guy, a buyer, a seller. When a frum guy walks into an office and he's wearing his yarmulke, it has never cost anybody business. When a secular person or a non-Jew sees somebody with a yarmulke, there's a certain trust factor, there's a certain comfort level that the guy has. But that doesn't mean that you are right for the business, for his particular building. Your job is to sell him why you are right for his building and his assignment. But I think that the part of Frumkite in the New York market, it does not have a negative. On the other hand is, you gotta be a realist, and many times where I go in for different, when I pitch for different agencies, I understand that I'll be competing with people with different backgrounds. So within my own company, I partner up with different people with different backgrounds, whether I might be an Italian partner or a Chinese partner, somebody from Greece, or just other people, because when you go for a pitch, you never know who ultimately the person will end up connecting with. Now, I know that in many businesses, especially in today's market, it's kind of cool to be an entrepreneur, start your own business, start up, ground up. I think in real estate, I don't think it's a good idea personally. I think that if somebody wants to have success in real estate, I think it's better to start with an established firm. I think the reason for that is you'll have someone who can mentor you, who can teach you the ropes, who can give you a broad view of potential properties that are out there, and you can also create a resume of deals that you have done. And you also get a certain amount of name recognition. I can tell you that all those that are in the industry, as myself for many years, I would say that we can probably get through to most people in the New York business world who are looking for real estate. But I think it's important that to be successful when you do work in an established firm, and I'm talking about from my own experience, is I remember in my old firm when I first started, how my boss would come over to me, something small would say, I want you to follow up on this particular item. I always made it a point to follow up and always circle back to him. With time, he knew that he can trust me and he can have confidence in me. And eventually he started giving me other business. I also think it's important for those that are considering to go into this field is you got to take this business seriously. Whatever chip you have on your shoulder, whatever attitude you have, you cannot make any side deals where you're making a deal around your firm, around your company. You got to put in the hours that is necessary to be successful, and that has to be your full-time job. And you got to be professional at all times. Because I got to tell you, in this business, at the end of the day, all you have is a reputation. And eventually, people will find out on whether you're giving them a story or not. And ultimately, you might make that one deal, but that guy will never do a deal with you again. And the same thing applies within the brokerage business as well, within a brokerage firm. That if you build a reputation that you're an island on your own, you're not a team player, and you think you're smarter than everybody else, ultimately, it's going to hurt you, and you won't get pulled in to different big pitches or other opportunities. I remember my father, at the end of each day, he would sit in deep thought with his hand on his head, his hand on his forehead in deep thought. And one time my sister asked him, so what is it that you're thinking about before he'd go to sleep? And he said he's making a cheshbon nefesh. He's thinking about his day. And I myself in business, every single day when I leave, I think about my day. I keep my checks and balances. I analyze if I have done everything I needed to do. Every single day before I come in, I have a goal of things I want to do, people I want to call, and some new business I want to go after. And is there anything I could have done that can make me more productive? One of the things in this business is that you can waste a lot of time with people that are not really buyers or not really sellers. And that's one of the things you learn is how to qualify a buyer and a seller. So all these are things that I would think about it towards the end of the day. And with all the glamour in this business, if you work hard, and hopefully you have a little mazel, You should make it. You should do well. But it's a very, very tough business. Everyone sitting here is reading in the papers how the real estate market has gone up, and people are driving nice cars, people are looking all flashy, and it doesn't come easy. This business had a lot of rejection. You have a lot of customers that don't call you back. You have deals that fall apart, and it's not one deal. It could be 3 deals that fall apart. You feel like you're like in quicksand. It's like you don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. So at the end of the day, you got to look at the big picture, and you got to look at overall the deals that you have done. This is not a business where you make money on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, because sometimes take many months. But if you work hard at it, then sky's the limit. And in real estate as well, you have to determine what type of sector of the market you want to go into. You have to determine if you want to make quick money, which is going into the rental market, and that could be for apartments, it could be for industrial properties, retail stores, or do you want to do investment sales, industrial. All that is a personal decision. Also understand that you have to know yourself better than anybody else. You have to look yourself in the mirror and say to yourself, are you cut out? Are you the type who enjoys talking to people, hanging around people, and being out there on the street a lot? It takes a certain type of personality is to be successful. And in the real estate market, as many other businesses, you have those that are stars and that are making it, but there's plenty who are not. And sometimes it's better off not to fool yourself by working hard, and if things are not working out, or if you don't feel like that you enjoy it, sometimes you have to realize that maybe you're destined to do something else, and maybe something even better and bigger. But at the end of the day, if you follow all the things that I've said, and you work hard, and you take this business very seriously, I think there could be a tremendous amount of success. I wish everybody the best of luck, and hopefully I've been informative in this particular field. Thank you.
Chye, Reb David, fantastic talk, really. It's amazing and invaluable insight. One more time, everybody, a round of applause. Before we segue over to the next part of tonight's event, just want to take 2 moments to discuss 2 different things. First of all, I want to just talk a little bit about CHYE. We're now in the community for close to 2 years. We're here, and our mission is 2. We want to bring success to this community. We want to be a resource for anyone that's starting up a business. We've done a lot, and we have resources available for you here in this room today. First of all, I'd like to let you know that we have on Empire Boulevard our headquarters, the old Boulevard Cafe, 510 Empire. It's open every day from 9 to 7 as a workspace. For those of you that work mobilely and you need a place to work and be productive, it's a place for you. I want to point out that there's a successful brokerage here in this neighborhood that started out at CHYE. He was working alone, and he would bring his clients. He would meet his clients at the workspace, and he slowly built up. Now he's got his own brokerage, and we're very excited for him. Reb Chye Strux, who's here tonight. And so, any of you brokers that are here and you need a place, you need to sit down and meet with somebody, we have CHYE available. We also have our mentor program that takes place online through our website. We have many talented people in this community that are ready to share their wisdom with you and their business knowledge. We're happy to make that available. And also here in this room tonight, we have Rav Yehuda Berg, who's on staff here in CHY. Yehuda, stand up for a second. Yehuda is a business counselor for startups, and he's very knowledgeable in helping people write business plans and deciding how to structure their business and do the research that's necessary. He's 3 hours a day, every day of the week at CHYE. For your needs, he's here tonight if any of you want to talk to him. And the Mitzvah Shem, we have many exciting events that are coming up throughout the year, so please look forward, Mitzvah Shem, to more things to come. We, Baruch Hashem, were able to bring sponsors that were able to help us make this event happen. These events are not cheap. There's many expenses involved in it, and we wouldn't be able to do it without our sponsors. And I would like to shout out my brother Morty and the Morty Edelson team, Eastern Consolidated, Pinnacle Realty, Brooklyn Brokerage. Also, you have on your tables, this is a new company, Israel bound. They sell SIM cards when you travel across the seas.